Sitaram, and good morning again, and welcome back to the program Addiction and Recovery. And this morning, again, as I mentioned before, we are going to talk about the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And these 12 steps have found use not only in Alcoholics Anonymous, but also has been now used in various other fellowships like Narcotics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Tobacco Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. And so there are many other groups that are using this successfully. And let me just read something. I have with me a copy of the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want to read something from the foreword, which says that Alcoholics Anonymous is a worldwide fellowship of more than 100,000. And that was when this book was written, but it is estimated that in 2020, that the population of AA people in recovery was over 2 million. And I dare say today it is probably much more than that. And it says that this book deals with the 12 steps and 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. It presents an explicit view of principles by which AA members recover and by which their society functions. Now, many people, it says here, many people, non-alcoholics, report that as a result of the practice of AA's 12 steps, they have been able to meet other difficulties of life. They think that the 12 steps can mean more than sobriety for problem drinkers. They see in them a way to happy and effective living for many, whether you're an alcoholic or not. So that I have personally decided to look at these principles and to live by them myself. So occasionally I may share my own challenges with some of these steps because they all seem to go against man's natural instincts. It says there that the AA 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. So, like I said, the first step of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you usually get that to the lead up of the program sometimes. We play the 12 steps and 12 traditions. The first step is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. Now, alcoholism is a disease, just like typhoid, just like hypertension, just like diabetes, any one of those. It is now recognized worldwide as a disease for a very long time, and even in some parts of the world still, they're still struggling to come to terms with that. It's seen as a moral issue, it's a behavioral problem, seen as a problem of deviance. A lot of people, and even though the authorities, the World Health Authority, the Pan American Health Organization, even our government in Trinidad and Tobago, have come around to recognize alcoholism and drug addiction as a disease. Still, in the population here, there's still a lot of resistance to that. A lot of, even when I worked at Cora Hospital, even trained people who you'd expect to be a little more receptive, nursing staff and the other ancillary staff and so on, would have very little tolerance for the alcoholics on the ward. A lot of people in the other wards would say, but they just misbehaved, and nobody held them down and put the drink to their mouth, forced them to have a drink. How intelligent big men and women can't understand that they shouldn't be drinking, why they can't drink like other people like me. And so that people who are not alcoholics find it very difficult to already grasp what is the nature of this disease, how it is a disease. There's not a virus or a bacteria or anything like that. As a result, there's no injection or pills for this disease. And a lot of families I know would have been happy if there was a an injection or a pill that you could give the drug addict. And it is not that science has been trying, and they still continue to try to see if they could find a medical response to this, some drug or something that can help a person to stop drinking alcohol. There are drugs that are used to help to deal with the withdrawal, symptoms, because okay, alcoholism alcohol is a sedative. No matter you drink and you get drunk and you misbehave, but eventually it'll make you feel sleepy and you'll go and sleep. So that people who have been drinking for a long time and they stop, they generally will go into withdrawal. And one of those withdrawal symptoms is insomnia. They have trouble to sleep. And so, yes, we have barbiturates, we have sleeping pills that people take to help them through that period. Only to find, though, one of the problems is a lot of people switch dependence from the alcohol to the sleeping pills and now have a bigger problem. So I'm not going to talk about too much of that today. Fact of the matter is that there's a very little tolerance in the world today, still among the population, for people who are addicted. Because alcoholics and drug addicts don't behave really nice. They're very abusive, they disrespectful, they engage in a lot of socially negative behavior, so that they earn a lot of disrespect from the society, even anger and animosity from people around them. So hence there's this stigma associated to alcohol and drug addiction. As a result of that, and the practicing alcoholic is aware that people around them, that's how people feel about it. So they deny that they have a problem with alcohol. It is a disease of denial, where the alcoholic, even when he realizes, look, he needs to do something about his drinking, as I did for many, many years, knew, I'm not foolish, I knew that I was having a problem with alcohol, but I did not have the humility to go and seek help. I did not want to ask any or let anyone know. And this is generally so in my practice. I see a lot of patients who struggle with this for years, and they try to fix it themselves. And I've explained on this program before and to others that listen, all human beings, remember when we were small, or as we grew older, our parents start backing away from doing things from us. They will tell you, well, look, you're old enough now to tie your shoelace. You're old enough now to go and take a shower and change your clothes and comb your hair and do things. And so there's a demand on us to be self-sufficient. And we also accept that challenge, you know, so that when it came to alcohol, I I had to, I mean, I thought I had a very strong will, and I wanted to fix this myself. And I would have tried everything I know, changing the chaser, changing the blend, switching from beer from alcohol to beer, and trying to juggle all kinds of things so that I could be able to manage my drinking without getting into trouble and getting sick and all of that. And I see that happening with a lot of alcoholics and drug addicts as well, especially those who are going on to the harder drugs. A lot of people start with alcohol and marijuana, and eventually they end up on cocaine and the more designer drugs eventually, because all of these things are accessible in the society, you know, so that with that dependence, it becomes difficult, very difficult for the person to stop on their own. So that first step, admitting that one is powerless over alcohol, is critical. Unless you first, a lot of people might admit to themselves, like I said, but you don't really care to share that with anyone else. You don't want anybody to know you're having difficulty handling your stories or managing your drinking, because a lot of times the family members, the wife, the spouse, the siblings are only too ready to remind you, how you behave when you're drinking, and to talk down to you, sometimes to insult as well, so that the alcoholic sometimes is unable to speak to those people close to him or her. And as a result, they keep it within themselves and they try. It is not for lack of trying. Most of the time, when I see someone in my office for alcohol or drug related problems, and I interview them, I realize that they were aware a long time ago and they had been trying. They would have tried every strategy known, and I've heard all kinds of strategies. People drinking oil before they go to drink in the hope that the rum will float and they will not get drunk. Some people taking laxatives, some people taking uh, magnesia and stomach, you know, things that would neutralize the acid in their stomach, and you hope it would help them to not get drunk so that they could drink more. And then there are those who will go and vomit and come back and drink. There's all kind of strategies that people have used to see if they could drink without getting into trouble, or be able to stop the drinking or manage or control their drinking. Because the majority of alcoholics would have started drinking at a point in time when they could have still managed and some of them for years were able to drink and manage, take two, three drink and go about their business, and not realizing when they cross that imaginary borderline from social drinking to uncontrolled drinking. And some of them, even though they know, they would still want to boast and brag that they have control. So admitting that one is powerless over alcohol is the first step. Now, one has to be rigorously honest with themselves if they are going to be able to take this step. So that the first step is being honest. You have to be honest and honest with yourself. Because for years, alcoholics blame everybody else. It is the Utah glass, like we say, the or somebody throw ashes in my drink, or that, probably, they mix the alcohol or something, or blame their friends and blame everybody else and not take responsibility that it is because they have become powerless and they can't control their drinking. That is why they are having the problems. So one has to be very, very honest and look at the role that alcohol has played in their life. Now, a lot of people come to me in denial. They still don't think they have a problem. And they show up at treatment facilities as well. And it usually because of duress, because of pressure from their employers, or maybe they got caught by the police and brutalized and were referred. And so even though they come begrudgingly to see a therapist or come for treatment, they still don't think that they are alcoholic. They're only doing that because they're trying to get off the hook, to get something to say in mitigation when they go before the court, or to be able to woo the estranged wife back into the relationship, or whatever. So it behoves people like myself and people in treatment and recovery, staff and circles, to help that person. It doesn't matter how they come, whether they're still, the majority of people who I have seen at Cora who come for treatment, the majority would have been in denial. But you, the therapist, have to help them to develop insight. Meaning, you have to work with them and help them to realize it is not the boss who caused them to drink so much, or the wife who nagged them caused them to drink so much, or all of that. But they drank because they had become dependent. One has to help them to start thinking consequentially, to see the relationship between their drinking and the consequences, that it is the drinking that is causing the problem, to help them to develop insight. And it is from that insight that they will have the motivation to admit and accept help. So this is what this program is about. It is really educating the population so that you could understand the nature of this disease. I'm helping the whole population here to develop insight so that you will not be in denial. Sometimes, even though the alcoholic is in denial, but the family is also in denial because they don't want to think that one of theirs is sick or is an alcoholic. So the program, and this is why I encourage, I am very fortunate to, I have been asked by a group in South to come and discuss step 4 and step 5 with them on the 7th of September at Pinal Presbyterian School. And I think I can send out an invitation, especially for those people in recovery to come. I'll be looking at it from a scientific perspective. And I've been also asked by the Hindu Women's Organization, Mrs. Kamala Tiwari, to do a lecture for a group of young people at the Vasudev Blue Star Ashram in Claxton Bay on the 14th of September at 1 I think it's between 11:30 and 1 p.m. that day. I'll be speaking to them. So those of you who are interested might make contact and inquire whether you can attend and listen to these. Again, and I encourage groups and organizations, if you have a staff and schools, temples, and you would like me to come and speak to your group about alcoholism and drug addiction, I would welcome those invitations. And the reason is because this is a disease of denial, that alcoholics and family of alcoholics do not really care to admit that they have a problem with alcohol or drugs. So that I have had the experience in the past. You organize a program like this to educate the community, and most people will not come because the alcoholic, he's not going to come because he don't want anybody to think he having a problem with his alcohol. The family members as well don't want anybody to know, well, look, families they try to protect the members. So that usually you find only the organizers and maybe one or two people in the helping professions come to these lecture presentations. So as a strategy, usually people like myself, when we speak about alcoholism and drug addiction, you really have to find a captive audience. So you find an audience of people who would have come there for Sunday morning service, and you put in a 10 or 15 minutes talk on alcoholism and drug addiction. And usually you're speaking to the family members because the alcoholic is not there. But they are, and that is why this program, especially this program, and I have to again thank the administration at Radio and TV Jagriti for giving this airtime free as a community service. And I know we are reaching a lot of people, especially people in the Hindu community are tuned into the station. Some of them tell me they don't even remove the dial. So they are hearing, I met a gentleman on what it was 2 days ago. Yeah, on Tuesday. No, on Monday. And he told me, he related the story. He's from the St. Helena area. And he said, he's about 17 years sober now. And he said, his wife would put on the radio whenever I was doing my program upstairs. And if he went downstairs, she had a radio downstairs. She'd put it on for him to listen to the program. And then if he even decided to leave to go to the house in the back where his father lived, she would call the father on the phone and say, look, put on the program. He's coming over there. And eventually he decided to listen to what we were saying here. He's now sober for many years. So he know if he's listening to the program. I know there's another guy there who he don't even go to a meeting, but he don't miss any of these programs. His name is, I could say his first name is Kenny. And if he's listening, I want to say a hello to Kenny. I know he's always listening to the program. So the nature of this disease, because it is in denial, that first step is the most difficult step for alcoholics to take. However, in the treatment facilities, what has helped the alcoholic in denial to get out of that denial is the small group and the counseling. There's no tablet or injection for substance abuse, and it is the same similar uh, dynamic that happens when that person goes to an AA meeting. Because in an AA meeting, what happens is people are there, the members who were there before, they usually speak at the meetings and they speak about their experience, strength, and hope. Their experience being, how they had aspirations just like the average person to be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, but how they started drinking recreationally and how eventually the drinking derailed their whole plan, and how they started to drink and how it progressed in their life and what are some of the problems they had as related to with drinking. And while they are speaking about this, the new person who visiting for the first time, he's listening and he's starting to identify. He realized, but wait, these similar things have happened with me. These are things that I have always been afraid. I thought it was only happening with me, only to realize, look, it is happening with other people. And they're not scared to speak about it. And look, they are staying sober. And sometimes, if he visits a group in his community, he knows some of those people. He know how they used to drink and how they misbehaved. And he could see from the look of, and the way they are living now that they are sober and they speak about their strength, the program, how they are practicing what they are learning here, these same 12 steps that we are talking about. And as a result of that, they are staying sober and they are going on with their life. A lot of people who came to AA and could not even read, they had abandoned school. Some of them were even deprived of primary education because of their parents drinking, were now able to read and they pick up the books and they read. Some went on to get their license and get job, and I can speak about myself too, that when I stopped drinking, I realized I had a lot of time. You know, I always wanted to learn to play music, so now I can play harmonium and tabla and drums. And then I decided, no, this wasn't enough. I wanted to resume my schooling. And I went back to school at age 36, went back to university. And that is why I am able to do what I'm doing today, you know, so that this program that can take alcoholics who are like derelicts and bring them back into useful, whole person, productive individuals in the society. Can you imagine what it can do to for people who are even non-alcoholics? So this, I'm speaking not only to alcoholics this morning, I'm speaking to all our brothers and sisters out there. Please go to an AA meeting in your community. Go online and check out this 12 steps and 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. Read it and see if you can relate it, because in AA, the person admits that they are powerless over alcohol. But there are a lot of you who are powerless over other things. Some people are powerless over chocolate, some over cigarettes, some over the gambling, some of the other drugs, some powerless over their in-laws, their spouse, you name it. They're powerless over sugar, you know, and they are diabetic and it is ruining their life. They're powerless over some extramarital relationship they are in that will ruin their family life and can't seem to stop it. So I'm saying this program will work for any of those. It will also work for people who are overweight and who wanting to lose the weight and get back healthy. So there's a program called Overeaters Anonymous as well. And they all follow these 12 steps. Because as I said, I'm a person in recovery. I follow these 12 steps. And yes, eventually I admitted, look, I had to do something about my problem, and I sought help. And I got help. Because, you know, a lot of us would like to do this and be able to boast and brag that, look, I was able to stop on my own. And some people actually are able to do that. After something serious happened, they got in an accident, or go to the doctor, and the doctor said, if you continue to drink, you're going to die, your liver is almost finished, and they stop. But I'm saying very few people can do that. Most people, though, are able to stop. Going to AA has the highest success rate in the world for the treatment and sustainability. Now, stopping is difficult, but staying stopped is more difficult. So that the first step to staying stopped is that you have to be honest with yourself and you have to admit that you have a problem. No problem, whether it be a financial problem, a health problem, a relationship problem, cannot be fixed unless the person who has the problem admits that, look, I have a problem. You understand? In counseling and psychotherapy, that's one of the tasks of the psychotherapist, to help the person to identify not only the presenting problem, but the root problem. What is the real problem behind all of this? Sometimes a person may come and say, oh, look, the problem is that they need to get more money. When the problem really might be one of money management. They have enough money, but they are not budgeting properly and not prioritizing. So professionals like myself have to work with the person and help them to identify what is the real problem. So even if the person comes in for treatment, as I was saying, or come to seek help and they are in denial, the therapist need to help that person to develop insight from which they will develop motivation to do something about it. Now, the second part of that first step has to do with humility. A person might be honest and realize they have a problem and even admit to themselves, yes, I am powerless of alcohol. But if they do not have the humility to seek help, they can stay in that state for a long time, trying and failing and trying, and then eventually give up trying because they realize they can't make it, like I did, and start rationalizing, like I also did. I said, well, look, I don't play cricket, I don't play football, so if I take a few drinks, what's wrong with that? But the truth was, I couldn't stop, and I didn't want to go seek help to stop. I wanted to fix it on myself, all for myself. And a lot of people out there, because of our socialization, if we have a problem, we would like to solve it ourselves. And nothing is wrong with that. That is human nature. But sometimes we have to come to realize that, look, this one have us over the barrel and we can't do it and we need it. So let me share this before we close. I see we have a few minutes again. There was a farmer who, found two tomato plants. This is an analogy that was shared with me by a friend many years ago. He found these two tomato plants. One of them were by itself and was thick and strong, and the other one was in among some weeds, and it was, like we say in Trinidad, tin and reggae. And when you're taking it out, the waste in it broke. It broke, you know. But he went and he planted both of them, and both of them started to grow. But the one that was broken, he tied it to a stick. He planted a stick next to it, and he tied it to a stick. And he, the both of them were coming up good. And then the rains came, and the winds blew very hard, and one of the tree fell down. And he asked me, which one you think fell down? Well, I thought it was the weak one. He said, no. The strong one that was not supported fell down. The one with the stick supporting it was the one still standing. So the moral of the story is, although you might be able to do it yourself, there's no harm in getting help. Like in Trinidad, we say make sure is better than cocksure. So that fortunately for us, we have so many AA groups in Trinidad and Tobago. All in my community and in Felicity, we have 5 AA groups on different days of the week. And every night there's an AA meeting in Trinidad and Tobago, wherever you live within close proximity. And we also have meetings now online so that you don't have to go anywhere. You can stay in the living room, in the comfort of your living room and safety of your home. And once you have internet and you have a smartphone, You call me, I'll give you the ID number and password, and you can go into this meeting, online AA meeting, and you don't have to put your name, you don't have to put your picture. You can put us a mnemonic, any name, and you can listen to the meeting. And there are many people now. This is something that really picked up in Trinidad during the pandemic. And now there are many people who have been sober for 2 years and more, almost going in 3 years because of these online meetings. So we have come to the end of this meeting. I want to let you know this program is going to be broadcast again at 10 p.m. tonight. And if you have any questions, you can call me at 671-3040, and I'll be only too happy to respond to your questions and your queries. So all the best until stay sober for those of you who are in recovery, and see you again next week, Thursday.